Hey everyone, this is Matt with the Northern Angler here in Traverse City, Michigan. I just want to say a big thanks to everyone who commented or watched our last video and gave us some feedback regarding bead fishing for Great Lakes salmon and steelhead. It was really helpful, and it's kind of the genesis of this video. This is part two, where we answer some of your questions and dive a little bit deeper in how you're going to fish a bead rig for salmon or steelhead. So again, thanks. Let's get started. One of the number one questions I got was, how long are these rigs? Great question, forgot to cover that. Your rig is going to be roughly 15 to 25, maybe even 30 inches depending on the system you're fishing. But 20 inches is a great middle spot. That's what I usually run. Try and make it consistent. Cut a bunch of them ahead of time. You know, if you're making all those rigs up on a foam, have everything set to the length so you don't have to measure them in the boat or on the stream. You can just tie them to your swivel. You're ready to go. Easy. Second question I got was, where does the weight go? Yeah, I kind of missed that, but what originally I was going to plan on talking about that in a later video regarding indicator fishing and chuck and duck fishing, but we're going to cover it right here too. The weight should always be above the end of your leader, whether your leader ends in a swivel or ends in just a knot. So if you're chuck and duck fishing, you may have a fixed weight coming off your swivel. That's perfect. You always want it above that bead rig about 20 inches like we were talking about. If you're running an indicator setup, you may have split shot attached directly to the leader before it ends and transitions to your tippet, but always above your bead rig, usually attached to your leader, is the answer. And we're going to look at a diagram here in a minute. How do we fish these? The great thing about this setup and tying them ahead of time is that they fish the same regardless of your method. So whether you're going to chuck and duck, indicator fish, or if you got something else creative you're doing, these bead rigs will remain the same. They remain consistent. So you can tie them all ahead of time and be ready to go. So indicator fishing, usually we're using a float or a bobber or indicator, whatever you want to call it. It's a suspender device that floats your presentation above the bottom. So rivers that are full of wood, you know, the Betsy comes to mind. You usually want to suspend all your presentations above the wood where the fish like to hide so that you're not losing stuff constantly. We all do, that's why we tie a bunch of them ahead of time. But indicator fishing can be really effective, especially in the winter when there's really subtle takes and your bobber just goes down just a little teeny bit, you know the fish is there. The other way we do this is chuck and duck. So on big rivers, there's sliding weights. On smaller rivers, there's usually a fixed weight where we're ticking bottom. And we're tying right off of that swivel, the end of the leader, to the bead rig. Here's some diagrams really quick. I'll flash them up here on the screen. They're also available on our website, thenorthernangler.com, in the articles page, so you can come back and return and review them and make sure you got everything rigged up correctly. Okay, you've had a chance to review a little bit of a visual of what we're talking about here. The last thing I want to touch on is, what do I fish them with? Should I just fish a bead independently? Should I fish two flies? Should I fish two beads? Yes is kind of the answer to all those. And what we typically do is run a bead off of another fly. If we're running a tandem rig, so two flies, the bead is usually the last one on there. It's not the primary, because when you're tying another fly or another section of tippet off the bend of your independent hook when that bead system, you impart a lot of motion, a lot of action, and the bead system really benefits from a truly independent hook. So that's why you don't see as many double bead rigs or point fly setups for the bead. What we like to run is a stonefly, caddis nymph, hex nymph, or an egg-sucking leech, and then a bead off of that. Or if they're really heavy on the egg bite, sometimes we'll run a rag egg or a nuke egg up top. Rag egg is one of our favorites. It really gets a fish's attention. We think of it as the enticer. They come up and they look at it, but they take the more subtle bead sometimes. So really effective way. Tie up some clown eggs, get ready for that setup. I already touched a little bit on the double bead rig there. You can do it. I've seen it done. I've seen it catch fish. But like I said, sometimes running a double really changes the dynamic of that initial hook. So hopefully you get them hooked on the bottom bead. But some folks will run a top bead with no hook on it just to get their attention. I don't know. I'd rather have a hook up there so in case the fish actually takes it. So. But just wanted to run through some of the basic questions we got and have a kind of a part 2. There may be even a part 3. Hopefully we get on the water soon and actually get to fish some of these and show you what it looks like in real time out on the water. But in the meanwhile, stay up to date with us on our Instagram page, Facebook, YouTube, and you can always keep up with fishing reports and articles and videos like these on our website, thenorthernangler.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you out there.